Welcome back. Now, I've had a tendency in the class to focus on a lot of men when I'm talking about history, so I wanted to make sure in this lecture that I included at least one woman while talking about famous people from the medieval times. So in this section, I'm going to tell you about three famous aristocrats of the medieval era. The first is El Cid, then William Marshall, and then finally Eleanor of Aquitaine. Now, El Cid, whose real name was Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar, was born in the Kingdom of Castile in Spain. He was born to a lower nobility family, but he rose through the ranks based upon his military acumen and prowess, knowing how to fight and how to lead men. Now, El Cid was hired by the kingdoms of Galicia and Leon, also in Spain, to help fight off Muslim incursions in that area. And he did well, and he was well renowned throughout all of Spain. Many other kingdoms in Spain wanted him to fight with them and for them. Now, eventually, however, people became jealous of his military ability, and eventually he was exiled from the Spanish kingdoms. Now, realizing his true potential, the Muslim rulers of Zaragoza invited him to come join and fight with them, and El Cid agreed. So El Cid was truly a universal knight in the essence that he fought on both sides of the long Spanish and Muslim conflict. He served both the Spanish and Muslim leaders in that era. So it's kind of neat seeing an individual, just based upon his military experience, go and fight for both sides. Now, William Marshall, who was born in England, was also from a lower nobility family. He rose through the ranks based upon his own personal strength and fighting ability. He was essentially equivalent to the Michael Jordan of his time period. William Marshall participated in a lot of tournaments, and he actually won over hundreds of battles with stage combat against other individuals. Now, as you saw on page 246, there was an element in medieval times of tournaments. Now, tournaments were more than just the jousting that we saw in the previous video. They also involved stage battles or combats that they called melees, where groups of knights would enter into a field and try to attack each other. Mostly, they would try to steal each other's goods and sell them later back to them. And so it was kind of a neat element that they called tournaments during this medieval time period. Well, during this time, nobody was better than William Marshall. He was truly a sports star in the making. And so he used his celebrity and his fighting ability to go on to serve 4 kings of England, which is kind of cool. Now, our last individual is Eleanor of Aquitaine, the wife and mother of kings. Now, Eleanor was an independently wealthy duchess from the southwest of France. She was known for her brilliance, her education, and her political savvy. She first married King Louis of France, whom she referred to more of a monk than a man, if you get the meaning. She would eventually receive an annulment from him, and she went on to marry King Henry of England, whom she had many sons and daughters with. 2 of those sons went on to become future kings of England. Now, Eleanor was not an easy woman to satisfy, and she even tried to overthrow her husband, King Henry, while trying to help some of her sons achieve the English throne. Now, one of her sons, Richard the Lionheart, was actually imprisoned, and she used her own political savvy to help get him out. So as you can see, and we'll talk about more about these 3 individuals in class, but there are a host of fascinating individuals during these time periods. So if you see anybody and you want to know about anybody else that you've seen online as you read through the books, make sure to take notes and we can talk about these individuals in class. Our last video is actually going to be upon cathedrals, one of the most beautiful remnants of the Middle Ages that we can still see around today. So we'll have a nice video on that, and then I'll see you on class on Monday.